The 350 rand social relief of distress grants will increase by 20 rand to 370 from April this year. There has been mixed reaction to the decision, with some labelling it a slap in the face. Well, let's speak to South African Federation of Trade Unions and National Spokesperson Trevor Shaku to get their views. Trevor, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us on 405. A slap in the face, government not serious, all sorts of descriptions for this 20 rand increase. Your thoughts?
Look, we are disappointed that the president had been announcing, and various other government leaders have been announcing, that they are going to adjust the SRD grant to a basic income grant. And in that adjustment, it will not only be a change of name, but also adjustment in the value of the money that is put in. But we were surprised when the Minister of Finance came out to say that they are only increasing the SRD grant by 20 rand. In our view, indeed, this is a mockery onto the recipients of the social relief of distress grant, because 20 rand would actually amount to nothing. Already, 350 as it is actually not relieving the very socio-economic problems that the people or the receivers of these grants are supposed to be having. For instance, if you look at the 350, divided, say, for instance, by 30 days, let's say with the increase of 20 rand, 370 divided by 30 days, you will get 12 rand 38 cents. That is not enough to buy even bread. Now, imagine if you are giving this as something such that a person who is supposed to depend on that grant solely has to rely on for the entire month. It means that they are not going to afford bread, let alone things which has to go into ensuring that they eat such particular bread. You've got personal and hygienic products that has to be added into that. So in the context of the rising cost of living and looking at the budget that has to contribute to the basic necessities of an individual in this country, and if you look at the household affordability index, we see there that a person or an adult at 18 years would be maintained by 1,070 rands. Now,
but Trevor, allow me to come in there. The social relief grant, if and I stand to be guided, was created to offer some relief. It was not a basic income grant, was it not?
Yeah, but that's where the problem is, because the basic income grant, in our view, ought to have replaced the social relief of distress grant a long time ago. But if you are saying you are relieving social distress, where will this social distress be coming from? It's coming from the fact that these individuals are unemployed and cannot afford. And under capitalism, you need an income in order to buy commodities. And those commodities, of course, are the things which you live by on a daily basis.
So these people that are unemployed, that are needing social relief, are unemployed because the government is not functioning to a position where it allows for employment. The government is corrupt, as proven by the Zondo Commission, so cannot afford some of the things that it should be affording. So let's start with the conversation that you've been having, or certainly the lobbying that you've been having, about issues around corruption. Because corruption, I think as we were talking about a little bit earlier on, is stealing huge amounts of money that should be allowing for alleviation or offering some of the social relief.
Look, for us, there are two stumbling blocks towards achieving social security and social protection in the country. The first one is austerity. That is our primary problem we have. But the second one, of course, is corruption. Kenneth Brown, before leaving the Treasury as head of procurement, had indicated that 35% to 40% of government's procurement budget is lost to tendering and outsourcing fraud. In other words, to corruption. But the second thing is that if you have 40 rand of every 100 rand that you are spending lost to corruption, of course you are going to bound to have wastage and leakage of the amount that ought to be invested in propping up social relief for people. But we have to speak about austerity and not only corruption, because austerity is the major problem. The reason they increased this by 20 rand and not to the food poverty line at 760 or the upper bound poverty line of 1,550 is because they are saying they cannot be able to fund this. And in our view, it is because of the fiscal consolidation they are embarking on, which of course has been given to them as a policy advice by the IMF and the World Bank, that in order for this country to stimulate investment, it has to embark on fiscal consolidation. We have a different view to this particular premise, because in our view, what ought to happen here, it has to be a fiscal multiplier that stimulates the economy. If you do not follow fiscal multiplier and use the basic income grant as an element of that fiscal multiplier, you are not going to solve the issues of poverty. You have, at the current moment, extreme poverty. The people living below food poverty line at 13.8 million. The people living below the upper bound poverty line at 30 million. This is the statistics released by World Bank itself after its assessment in 2020. If you have that, what is going to be the best weapon that you can use, both to alleviate poverty, but at the same time stimulate the economy to grow? In our view, that will be the basic income grant. Of course, we can include in the infrastructure development, massive infrastructure development, spending on public services, spending on public service compensation bill. And we think that this amount, if spent properly, without the corruption we've mentioned, we are going to be able to stimulate the economy and put it on a growth trajectory.
So very, very quickly, your thoughts on this? I was speaking earlier to Africa Check, and Africa Check says that 3 of South Africa's billionaires have more money than 26 million of South Africa's poorest citizens. Right. So, I mean, that is a huge, huge anomaly.
Indeed, it's a huge anomaly, and it is the basis for which, or upon which, as SAFTU, we've been calling for the abolishment of capitalism. Because it is capitalism that has created such a particular space and a condition in which the few have wealth concentrated in their hands, and the overwhelming majority, more than 80%, have to share the spoils of about 20% of the country's wealth. That is unacceptable, and in our view, we will not be able to solve the issues of income inequality that are growing, widening in the country, not only in the country but globally, because it has been released also yesterday that 10% of the country, of the global population, owns more than 70% of the world's wealth. Now, that is the reality of capitalism, where wealth is concentrated in the hands of the few. Without dealing with capitalism, which of course has created the structure of the economy in which it is, an overwhelming majority having to depend on selling their labor, but those who are of course chasing after profits, not creating opportunities for employment. And we understand why they are not even creating opportunities for employment. It is because in the first place, capitalist enterprises are not concerned with job creation, neither are they concerned with the creation of value in the economy. The creation of value in the economy is only for them to be able to reap profits out of that particular process. It is not because they are concerned with increasing the national wealth or creating employment so that our people can be able to have an income through which they can, of course, afford the basic necessities they need for their own sustenance in life. So this is the problem of capitalism, and without solving capitalism, we're not going to solve the issues of income inequality.